So please remember, demons are nothing more than angels in disguise. All right? Demons are around to share a lesson. They're not allowed to hurt you. They're allowed to scare you. They're allowed to be big, bad, mean, and ugly, but they are trying to get you to see something within yourself.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have a guest on today, Janine Bolon, who is an author, a scientist, a shaman. She's like the real deal. And I met her in like such a magical and synchronistic way that I feel so blessed and grateful that she is on my podcast today. So hi, Janine. How are you doing?
I am doing really well. I've been looking forward to this all weekend. It took us a while to get here. And now that we're here together, very excited. What can we do? How can we help your people?
Well, I have to say that this past weekend, someone mentioned to me that they read your book and they found it on Audible. And I said, oh, well, I love Audible. I think it's a very fantastic way to really get to know an author, especially when they read it themselves. So I bought Janine's first book that I can't remember the name of because I binged it so hard. I'm sorry, Janine.
This is the first. It's all right. This is actually book number 5. It's Seeking the Divine. But it is the first book that I did write regarding spirituality. It took me a while to get to a point where I would actually write about spirituality. So it's Seeking the Divine, An Intimate Journey into the World of Mysticism, Volume 1. There's 4 volumes in this series. Yeah.
It was so good.
Oh,
I literally finished it in 3 days.
That's impressive. Thank you. I'm honored. As an author, I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so great. And it was just a very interesting journey on your life, but also how you became a shaman. And so I want to talk today about how you really have been able to meld the scientific with the mysticism, because I think that there's always this big disconnect for people because they're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. That's not logical. But you are a scientist at heart and first. And so, but you've been able to balance this in such a beautiful way, and you were able to explain it in an even better way that I finished your book like 2 hours ago, and I'm still kind of like having like little brain bombs go off like, whoa.
So I would be happy to do that. Is there a specific area you wanted to talk about first? Because if you let me roam, we'll go nuts and we'll never really get down to brass tacks. And I really want to give people workable solutions for their own life. So go ahead and give me an arena you'd like me to focus on.
Okay, let's talk about this this particular realm that we're living in, this 3D realm. And since you're a scientist, let's talk about the law of relativity. And you can explain to us in scientific terms versus mystical terms.
Oh, okay. Relativity. It's very simple, and people like to make it complicated. And I think Einstein really did a fabulous job of using basic algebra to bring us relativity. Okay. And he wasn't the best mathematician. The guy suffered tremendously because he didn't have the mathematical chops. It was John Maxwell that actually brought in electromagnetism and helped us understand more and more of what not only Einstein was trying to get us to, but also several other wonderful, wonderful scientists of the day. So Faraday being one of them. But we won't talk about Michael Faraday. We won't talk about all those lovely, lovely scientists I absolutely love and adore who were struggling to talk about what we consider basic concepts, and yet they're still the most mysterious. So how does scientific relativity have to deal with anything else? Well, it's very simple. A lot of people like to say, okay, let's talk about dimensionality. We'll start with 3 dimensions and then we'll go into relativity. We're 3-dimensional objects. We are 3-dimensional beings in this physical body. The mystic abhors that idea because they know there is so much more. There is so much more to me. You'll hear people say, I'm a multi-dimensional being. I'll say, of course, but your experience, your singularity, the place that you are is in a body of flesh, and it is currently locked in a 3-dimensional covering, casing, vessel, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it the meat suit. I think that's very degrading. Hey, it took me a lot to create this body. It took parents, it took great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. It took a lineage to create the type of body that we currently have. So please don't degrade the vessel. Even St. Francis called the body the donkey that carried the soul. Okay, so come on, give it a little credit, all right? A lot of people bust on the body a lot, and it's only because as a metaphysician, as somebody who is a mystic and a scientist, it's like you have to meet yourself where you are, okay? Do you remember why you came here? Do you remember why you are here? Do you know your mission? If you don't, that may be the first thing you want to try out. Figure that out. So when we talk about dimensionality, people like to say you have 3 dimensions, and then they'll throw in time, and they'll make it the 4th dimension. That is inaccurate according to the scientific model. You don't start mix and matching, because if you start doing that, then I can throw in magenta and let that be a dimensionality. And then I can throw in vermouth and let that be a dimension. Like if you start mixing dimensionality. So when you hear me speak about dimensions, I am always talking about how many pieces of information do I need to give you, Christy, so that you can meet me somewhere in space and time. Okay, so that is kind of the basic term of dimensionality. So if you are in a 0-dimensional universe, that means you don't need any information. You'll find me. Okay, but if you're in a 1-dimensional universe, and that's where you'll see physicists, they'll grab up ink pen and they'll say, okay, to meet at that point at the top of the pen, you only need 1 piece of information. The party's all here, right here. We can all, hang out there. 2 dimensions, which is, say is a piece of paper. You need the X, Y axis. In order to have those 2 pieces of information, I can meet Christy there. Okay? 3 dimensions, you're very familiar, right? You X, Y, and if you're in a skyscraper, I need to know what floor you're on, right? So that's why the three dimensions. 4 dimensions. Now, this is where you kind of have to stretch your brain a little bit. And this is the way scientists think. You always start with something extremely easy, such as 0-dimensional space or 1-dimensional space, and you gently walk people up to the more complex. So that's where a Tesseract comes in. And no, I am not talking about what Marvel uses. That is not a portal, okay? Because a Tesseract is this. When you're on a chalkboard, and you're trying to describe a cube to somebody, what do you draw? You know what I'm talking about? You draw that string, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that is a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional object. A tesseract, go on to Wikipedia. They've got a beautiful example of a tesseract, is a 3-dimensional line drawing of a 4th-dimensional object. That is a tesseract. And that is what I want your people to go find out. And if you want, I'll send you the link so you can put it in the show notes so that they can go and find their own tesseract. So that is dimensions. Now, Einstein talked about relativity, and depending upon how close to the speed of light you were moving, mass became energy, energy became mass. There's a lot of stuff that happens in that understanding. And he, in order to be able to create what he was seeing with the equations, we had to create space-time. And everybody's like, oh, that's the 4th dimension. No, it's the way the fabric of space and time warp and weave. And instead of us free-falling through space at 286,000 miles per second squared as Earthlings, what we have happening is we're actually circulating around the sun in this beautiful ellipsis that's on a piece of space-time fabric. And once we started understanding that, then we could understand how gravity was moving and lensing and all that. So what does this have to do with relativity, Janine? All right. It has to do with this. If I'm an ant and I am on a cable of a telephone wire, my world is flat. All right? But if I'm standing down on the street corner and I'm looking up at that cable wire, it looks like a line. That's relativity. To the ant, his whole world is that cable wire. To the person down on the ground, there is a whole heck of a lot more going on than just that cable wire that happens to be a line that goes from pole to pole. So relativity is, some people would say, perspective. And so Christy has a very unique perspective. You who are listening to this podcast right now, your perspective is very unique. My perspective is different again. So we have over 8 billion perspectives. We have 8 billion relativities of this planet happening at once. And so that's how the science and the mystic operate. We understand as mystics, we are all interconnected. How do I know this? And this is what I challenge every mystic with. When I meet a mystic and they say, well, we're all connected, I go, how do you know? And I want you to be able to answer that for yourself. How do you know that you're interconnected? If you don't know it in an experiential way, like if you haven't had an experience where you know that we're all interconnected, then seek that. That will be mission number 1 for you.
Ooh. Wow, you explained that really well. Like I've never had relativity explained to me like that. And I actually understood it too. So right. Props to you. That's amazing. Okay. So let's move over to the mysticism side. Okay. So you are a shaman and you have been trained in shamanistic ways and everything. Did becoming a shaman shift your entire perspective, or did your entire perspective shift and then you became a shaman, or were they intertwined?
Oh yeah, was it? You're really doing the chicken and the egg thing with me, aren't you?
I am.
Right, because this is the thing. I was a shaman, but I didn't know I was having shamanistic journeys. Okay, I didn't take the label shaman. I did not call myself a shaman. Somebody else was talking to me, happened to be Native American. I've worked with 16 different Native American tribes as of this time. And of all those people, they started talking to me about this experience that I was having, these different types of experiences that I was having. And as a shaman, I was sitting there going, oh, okay, well, what is that called? And they're like, you've been on shamanistic journeys, haven't you? And I was like, well, I went, I saw this, I saw that, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, that's shamanistic journeying. So it was a label that was given to me. It was something I had done since I was very young. I just didn't have words for it.
Ooh, okay. So your journey through that was so very interesting. And in your book that I just read, you detailed it out so beautifully, how you saw the world and how through your visions it kind of opened up your perspective completely. But we are not all supposed to be going on shamanistic journeys. How can we attain that kind of level of perception and distort our realities so that we can get to that level?
Okay. So number 1, you're already there. All right. You don't have to get or grasp anything. The problem is remembering. So you don't have to distort your reality. I'm going to forgive me for being very picky about word choice, but number 1, I'm an author. Number 2, I'm a scientist. That makes me like worse than any English lit person you've ever run into. And that's only because language is so horrible at communicating what we're talking about. And so I'm very particular about word choice. So when it comes to reality, realize you're the only one experiencing it. Your senses, the way you're interpreting the data that's coming through your brain, the way that you're experiencing your reality. You can have 2 people standing side by side, ask any police officer, see a car accident, each one will, the basic idea of what happened will be present, but each will have experienced it differently. Each will use different words because that's how human beings differentiate on this planet. Okay, so to get to that level, I'm going to actually answer that question. And this is where book number 3 of the series, Expressing the Divine, it's a guidebook for the enlightened soul. It specifically was at the request of my students. They were like, Janine, we really want, just give us a freaking guidebook. You know, how do you get from A to B here? You're a scientist. I trust you now. Make it happen for me, right? So the thing was, what I had was a very highly developed sense of clairvoyance. I could see things before they happened, or I had the ability to see. Not everybody are given those gifts. Some people are clairaudient, which is they will hear things that nobody else can hear. So back in the day when I was a young kid, before we went digital, I could actually hear security cameras going wee because they were recording. And I could always tell what shops were under surveillance and which shops were not under surveillance because I could hear them. So I also had clairaudience, and have been times that can be a little disconcerting because you'll be walking into a room or something and you will hear someone speak and you realize you're the only one that heard that person speak. And so I had to learn how to differentiate. And then I also had clairsentience. Clairsentience is where you can actually feel somebody. So I thought they were angels as a child. I don't know exactly what it was, but beings that were invisible to me would walk by and pat me on the shoulder, just kind of letting me know they were there. And then I would turn and look, and the only other being in the room that would turn and look with me was the cat or the dog that could also see them. So I would take my cue from animals a lot of times, that they were seeing what I felt sometimes. So just realize there are different types of ways that you come online, and when you start having ringing in your ears, a lot of times that's your clairaudience coming online. And so start listening more carefully, be more aware. And you probably had this a lot, people are like, be in the now. Well, why are they asking us to be in the now? Because if you create a singularity, which is you focused on this moment right now and nothing else, not being distracted, you're in your highest level of power. Okay. And that's why meditation is so important. Is it the meditating that's important? No, it's what happens after meditation. During meditation, you're doing your best to raise your frequency so that you can help humanity evolve. All right. You're doing work for the entire freaking planet. And what's so interesting is that as you're doing that, then as you walk through life, you will start to see things more and experience things more that went unnoticed before. So in your case, the beautiful roses that you have behind you, all right? Georgia O'Keeffe, a lot of people misunderstood so many of her paintings because they thought they were sexually based. True, it was the 60s and 70s, but at the same time, she was like, no, nobody looks at flowers as closely as I do, and they have revealed a whole new world to me, right? So just some ideas to throw around there.
I love that. Okay. So as a shaman who journeys through all of the realms and all of the dimensions, everyone on this planet is here to remember who they are, which is connected to source in some way, right?
That is a very positive way of looking at it. Not everybody's here for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Having been through some of the lower realms, some of the people that we have a tendency to kind of be judgy against. I'm going to use myself as an example. When I was in high school, my father had retired from the Navy into southern Missouri. And there were some, what I'll call bubbas. And I'm not proud of the fact that I said that, but that's where I was at that time. I was 16, 17 years old. I thought I knew the world. Yeah. Anyway, so had some rednecks or bubbas, whatever you want to call it. And I really didn't have a lot of respect for them. And that's my bad. That's on me. I didn't understand what their purpose was on planet. They were there to have a pickup truck, have their house trailer, their dog, their wife, maybe one or two kids, and they drank their beer and they enjoyed their football and they worked on the farm. They were hardworking people. What I came to learn later on that made me just kind of hang my head at my own ignorance was I learned that they were from lower realms and they were the heroes of those lower realms. They were the messiahs. They were the warriors that fought back the darkness in those lower realms so that others would know that there were higher realms to go to. So Earth was their nirvana. They had earned the rest. So they came in as, I'm going to use this example, Southern Missouri rednecks. And they hung out at Ripley County and they enjoyed life and they worked at the local lumber mill and that was all they needed. So when you run into people who are just happy living where they are, realize they've earned the rest. They've earned this rest. Let them have their nirvana. This is nirvana. And so that's a story I like to tell on myself to remind me that never hurts to be a little bit more humble.
That is fascinating. I've never heard this about the lower realms, which is really interesting because, I've never talked to a shaman in person either. So
right,
this is all very new.
everybody has their own perspective on it, but I
Yeah.
was shown many different types of realms and frequencies. And that way I had better understanding of the type of people here on planet Earth. We got it all. You have so-called angels and demons walking side by side. That's very unusual.
Oh, okay. So then, but so many questions. I just don't even know where to start. It's like changed my entire perspective. If we're not all here to like raise the vibration of the planet and like, remember who we are now, I'm like, now I have to rethink a lot of things in my life.
Yes.
And look at what I thought might have been
helpful.
true.
It's always helpful. So please remember, demons are nothing more than angels in disguise. All right? Demons are around to share a lesson. They're not allowed to hurt you. They're allowed to scare you. They're allowed to be big, bad, mean, and ugly. But they are trying to get you to see something within yourself. And the only way to do that is to scare the crap out of you until you seek assistance or seek your own personal version of the truth.
Ooh. I'm going to have a lot to think about on that one, for sure. So we might have to do a follow-up.
Yeah, and the other thing is, everything I may be telling you, it may be wrong for your particular life. All right? So you don't have to accept anything I say as truth. It may not be your truth, but I do want you, and this is my job as a shaman and as other label. I've been given a lot of different labels in my life, depending upon what tribe I worked with. But one of the things that I will do is I will poke you and prod you so that you will become the truly high potential being that you are. I will not allow you to sit there and wallow in the mud when I know you're an angel in disguise.
Ooh, that's a big ask.
That's no.
That's a lot of work for shaman.
Well, no, it's not. I just poke the stick. It's your work. You're the one that's supposed to remember, not me.
Oh. Okay, well then let's get on the best way to remember why we're here, right? Because if you're watching us right now, then you're probably on this path towards remembering who you are to some degree, right? So, can you give us some tips?
Well, I can give you the tips that worked for me. And it may not be the path that you need to walk. And that's the other thing. It would be absolute hubris for me to say that I know what's best for you. Are you kidding? Nothing's more ridiculous. I can give you suggestions. I can give you ideas. I can give you what worked for me. But it comes right down to you will have to walk this path. Whether you choose to do it in this life or another is up to you. But you will have to walk the path. You're on it. You can't help it. You're walking it as it is. And some people think, well, I take 2 steps forward and 1 back. And I always like to say, how do you know? How do you know you're taking steps back? Well, because it feels like I've been here before. I said, did you learn the lesson last time? Maybe you're going a little deeper with that lesson. And these are the things I have to remind myself when I find myself circling back to something I thought I had already dealt with. So how do you do this? Well, you do it through meditation. And people are like, oh my God, I can't meditate. I went, all right, that's fine. You don't have to meditate by sitting in a room and looking at your third eye and doing deep breathing exercises. Do you create? Are you a carver? Do you do wood carving? Do you write? Do you draw? Create. When you create, like I found a woman who all she sews is potholders and she sells them. But when she's sewing her potholders, she goes, I get in this zone. And I went, that's meditation. You're connecting in with your higher self or source because you forget time. See, you know you're doing something right. When you forget time, you're not thinking, you're just doing, you're just being. Okay. And so for some people, that's as they draw or they paint. Like they start off, having to watch somebody else paint, and then they get good, and then they start finding their own style, and then they keep at it. And before you know it, they lose track of time, and they can be in there painting for 8 hours and realize maybe I should eat something. I'm getting a little woozy. So this is the type of meditation I'm talking about, either in the action of creating. I had a cyclist who they talk about, they have to at least cycle at least for 10 miles, and then after mile 10, they hit their zone. And that for them is meditation. So for me, I was trained very old school, and so I learned to sit very, very still. And you've hit higher frequencies when you're sitting very, very still in meditation, doing your breathing techniques, and then you rest. You do that deep breath in, and then you pause. And then when something moves, like you'll sit there and your finger will just jump a little bit or something like that. That means you've hit those higher frequencies. Rest there. See if there's something there for you to acknowledge without thinking.
Okay, those are all really good tips.
Good
I think meditation gets a bad rap, right? Because everybody thinks that you have to like sit there really still, cross-legged or in a chair, and then just like,
what am I supposed to do now? And that is part of it. It depends on what kind of shaman you want to be, as well as what kind of metaphysician. I mean, I wanted to be a master of myself. And this was something that I learned through some Hindu training that I received. When you would hear devotees call their guru master, they weren't saying they were the master of the devotee. They were the master of themselves. And what they were talking about was they had mastered their thoughts. They had mastered their reactions to things. They no longer reacted. They responded. They had dealt with their garbage, their shadow selves and all that kind of stuff. So anyhow, that's where that comes from.
Oh, I have so many more questions for you, Janine, but I'm not going to keep you today because I know it's late for you, and I really appreciate you coming. So if someone wants to work with you, and obviously they need to read your book, they need to listen to your book on Audible because it was so good. I really enjoyed it. How are they going to get in contact with you?
I think the best way to get in touch with me, I am on LinkedIn, I am on Facebook, but I really recommend that you go to janinebolon.com/connect. And that's where Open Friday Coffee is. Once a week, almost every Friday, but not every Friday, but almost every Friday. I am on Zoom, and my community is there with me. It's totally free of charge. You can ask me any question, and I will be glad to help answer it. If you have any questions about the stuff in my books, or any questions that you have with what Christy and I have talked about, and you're welcome to challenge me on what I know for me, because you may be walking a different path, and I am more than happy to listen to where you are on your path and then see if we might be able to help you with a different perspective. But just know, if you're doing something and it feels like the path you're supposed to be walking, don't listen to anybody else. You listen to that inner voice. It's very important that you listen to your own true self.
It's good. And Friday coffees are really good because I've been. So definitely do that. I'm going to put all of these links below in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming today, Janine. I hope that we get to have more conversations because I have so many more questions.
All right. We can definitely have more conversations, and I look forward to that. Take care, Christy, and everybody. Take care out there. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you. We'll see you later.